Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. This episode is brought to you by The Wellness Paradigm, a holistic health coaching company shifting the way that women understand and heal their bodies. Through bioenergetic testing, functional lab testing, and functional nutrition, we uncover what traditional approaches often overlook, so you can stop guessing, start healing, and finally feel like yourself again. No more one-size-fits-all protocols, just real answers, deep-rooted healing, and the clarity and confidence you deserve to feel incredible. It's time to it's time to shift the paradigm of women's health. Now on to our show. And good afternoon, Michelle.
Hi, Shannon. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you're here, and we already could probably have like 5 hours of podcast episodes
We
just
certainly can.
for us. Um, we're so much that we could jam on as far as women's health, metabolism, and all of the fun things. So she's going to bring her wealth of knowledge to you guys because she really specializes in helping high functioning women in midlife see results when nothing else has worked, especially around stubborn weight gain and energy crashes and hormonal chaos. So, Michelle, let's just dive into it. Tell us a little bit more on who you are and how you got started in this work.
Yeah, so I have been doing this for about 16 years now. Um, so when I was in my early 20s, I opened up a gym here in Toronto. I thought that, optimal health was all about strength training and eating clean. And I really didn't see past that.
Mhm.
And it really wasn't until probably a decade into that journey where I realized how crappy I actually felt.
Mhm.
Um, getting up at 4 a.m. every day, being at the gym by 5:30, 6 o'clock, an hour workout that was always fasted,
Mhm.
right? Yeah, I know you know this world. Bring my breakfast to the gym
Yep.
and eat it after my workout. And then it was back-to-back clients all day long. Didn't get home till 9 p.m., you know, just like over and over again for over a decade. And I probably prided myself on, like, I really wore that high stress, highly driven
Yep.
person. I really wore it as a badge of honor.
Mhm.
I don't know if you actually know this bit about me. When I was 25, so I was 3 years into owning my gym, I actually went and got breast implants as well.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that was at the time, at the time I felt fantastic, or I thought I did. And then fast forward, I really realized how much I was suffering from this like toxic overload. Realized I had breast implant illness, and then about 5 years ago, I had them out, and
Okay.
within 3 months, I had been working on my health and stuff because I had been feeling so crappy. But within about 3 months of having my explant surgery, my entire being changed.
Mhm. Yep.
And that really solidified to me that health goes far deeper than diet and exercise.
Mhm.
And I am, based on functional labs, if we were going to talk data, far healthier today than I ever was in my early 20s.
Mhm. Oh
And
yeah.
so that is why I am here today. And I think that the women that I have worked with over 16 years and the women that are going to come into my world in the future, they also need to start shifting their stories around what health looks like physically and what it actually entails to achieve it.
Oh yeah. I mean, you and I have very similar stories, right? And we work with, kind of similar clientele to an extent too. And many people start off thinking health is diet and exercise. Yes, 100%. Not going to negate that. But when you dive and you have your eyes opened so much more to this deeper sense of health on a cellular level, right? On a
Yes.
physiological level, but also on a spiritual, emotional level as well, whatever that means to you. It's like, yes, externally things change, but also your whole being changes, right? You know,
100%. 100%. The uh, spiritual thing is I find that, maybe it's when you're in your 20s. I can really only speak to that. You're living so much in ego.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And then life happens. Maybe you have kids, maybe you experience breakups or job losses or major changes or whatever. And all of a sudden you're on like a whole nother path where you have to really set aside ego
Mhm.
and come into terms with like who you really are, who you really want to be. And not everybody gets it at such a young age. So I feel grateful that I have had that opportunity as well, the spiritual path too.
Oh yeah, dude, I went through like a, for lack of a better word, spiritual awakening in my early 30s. That rocked me.
Big
Um,
time.
but it's also like I feel as if a lot of coaches, like that's why it's so important to go through this journey also on ourselves, because as you grow and change, so does our practice, so does who we work with, so does how we work with the people. And it really deepens that connection. If you would have told me 10 years ago when I got started in this that I would be talking about nervous system regulation and, for well, now I do bioenergetics, I would look at you like you were crazy. I'm like, I can't meditate. I can't sit in stillness for 5 minutes, let alone like I'm not stressed.
Stressed? What's
Oh,
that? I
you know,
just run on 10 all day long and 6 cups of coffee.
like legitimately three espresso shots, and 12 hours of back-to-back clients, and I wasn't stressed, quotation. Meanwhile, I'm dealing with autoimmune issues, hormone issues, gut issues, chronic fatigue, like, but I wasn't stressed.
Not at all. I was like 32 with postmenopausal hormone levels, not stressed.
Can't be the answer. I think that's honestly, we can probably agree on this. Probably the hardest thing to talk to with client who's really wanting to deepen their health journey. For many of the clients, their weight is stuck, they're frustrated. I think one, it's very difficult to talk about reverse dieting or metabolic reboot, if you want to call it that, eating more, and working out less. That's a huge issue, especially with control, right? But second is understanding the role that stress plays outside of just, oh yeah, okay, stress. Because people think it's dismissive when we say that. It's like, no, your body's prioritizing safety, right? And we have
Big
to
time.
patterns. And that is so hard because it's like, well, can't you just give me a supplement? Can't we just diet more? Can't we just like keto? But no, that's what
No.
got you here in the first place, right? So let's jam on this a little bit on, we'll say weight loss resistance, metabolic stagnation, if that's a word. Just what do you typically find when clients come to you, and what are the things that you typically talk to them about that are holding them back from getting X result?
Yeah. Their mindset, number one, it
Oh,
holds them back.
yeah.
Um, and so there is definitely a relearning or even an unlearning of what we think we know about diet and exercise and how weight loss works. Um, there is also, so I'm going to just speak to mindset for a second here. Women tend to fixate not just on the number on the scale, but just on a number. Like it's just so like arbitrary. Like they just pick a number out of the sky and say like this is what I want to be, and that's fine. That's fine. Okay, you have a goal. I'm okay with goals. Like tangible goals are fine. The issue becomes when I see women saying they're plateauing or nothing's changing, but where the mindset shift has to happen is that your so, they say, oh, like my metabolism is slowed or like, whatever. Your metabolism isn't just weight loss.
Yeah.
Like if you now, let's say you've lost 10 pounds in 2 months, great. That's like really incredible. But now it's slowed. Well, do you think you could really keep that up? How much longer? You'd weigh like your birth weight. You know what I mean? Like it's physically impossible. Your body will adapt because your body is incredible. But then your weight loss resistance is the same symptom as a digestive issue. Like the way it plays on your body and on your metabolism, it is the same as insomnia. It is the same as breakouts on your skin. It is the same as bloat and brain fog. If you are telling me that you're plateauing because your weight hasn't changed, but now you have great bowel movements every morning and your skin has cleared up and you have new hair regrowth and you're sleeping like you've never slept before, tell me your metabolism isn't totally burning.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And so something that we always, every single one of the women that I work with, it never fails to come up that I have to reiterate that and be like, listen, like just because this one aspect of 50 different measurables hasn't shifted to your expectation, which is arbitrary anyway, doesn't mean that things aren't really progressing. And then if I can get them talking about that, then I start to hear things like, you know what? I traveled for the whole month of May and didn't gain a pound. That like never happens. And I'm like, your body is still working, like it's doing really good. She didn't, I actually had that conversation yesterday with somebody. She was out of control with her food. And when I mean out of control, she didn't have control over what she was eating. She was staying in hotels and at friends' house and whatever. She was doing red eyes across the country. So sleep wasn't great or wasn't ideal. And yet her body didn't respond in a typical way before working to us, as in gaining weight. And she was like, oh, you know what? You're right. So if I can help the mindset, just reflect back that weight loss resistance is just a symptom, just like any other symptom, and it needs to be measured in the same, with the same weight, for lack of a better word. So mindset, I think mindset is the number one thing that holds women back from actually getting to their goals.
That's a real meaty one. It's a real meaty one because it's one, I love that you mentioned that metabolism is not just weight, and it's not, right? I mean, when you think about it, it's our respiratory, right? It's our
Absolutely.
digestion, right? It's our thyroid, how cold and our circulation, right? Such a great win is like, oh, my hands and feet aren't so cold anymore, but my weight's still stuck, right? And it's like,
Right.
and so go ahead.
Sorry, it's so, we are so taught or conditioned to believe that our body works in silos, works in its own individual systems. And for some reason, and maybe this is just because, I have, like, I'm a mom, so I have this understanding, but for some reason, women can wrap their head around, if your body doesn't feel safe, your body won't prioritize fertility. But for some reason, we can't wrap our head around, if your body doesn't feel safe, it will not lose weight.
Hmm.
But literally, in certain instances, infertility and weight loss resistance are just a symptom, one like the other.
Hmm.
And if your body doesn't feel safe, your body will not prioritize either of those things.
No, and that's a hard thing to wrap your head around, right? Because you're quotation doing the right things, right? And
Right.
you're putting in the effort. And it goes so much deeper, when you say mindset, it could be, okay, mindset around food and that foods aren't as bad as I think they are. And, that's super important, but it's also, at least when I'm working with clients, many times like on my bioresonance scan, I'm looking at trauma. I'm looking at generational trauma showing up, and I'm like, these are patterns that are making your body feel not safe to be seen, right? Not safe to feel. Go to your body, it's protective. And so yes, we can talk about liver health and gut, and maybe you've done the protocols, but it's like ultimately if your body feels it, disdain and hatred and all of this stuff, then that's really rewiring. That is so important because that's not only going to help your weight but help your literal life. So
Yes. Like down to a cellular level,
mhm.
that will help.
Absolutely.
I find that self-validation on a weight loss journey is really important. And that comes from, in my opinion, healing the nervous system as well. Like, you're expecting people to tell you you look fantastic, but you're like literally giving your power away.
Mhm.
You tell you that you look fantastic. You tell you that you've put in the effort. You do it. You do it because you know that you need to treat your body with love and respect, and that equals discipline as well. Stop waiting for other people. And I feel like a lot of women, in terms of their bodies, are so disassociated from that emotional connection to their body. Well, no wonder you can't, you have all of these symptoms. Like, I know we're talking about weight loss specifically right now, but like, if you're so disassociated, how are you, like, you're not in tune. It's just never going to happen. Your nervous system is on edge all the time.
Yeah, all the time. And I think that's when you're dealing with high achieving women, that's just what we're taught is the norm, right? It doesn't feel weird, doesn't feel off. It's normal to have really bad PMS and to be only pooping 3 times a week and to be running on coffee and to be, that just doesn't seem off. And so you tell yourself as a protective mechanism that you're fine,
Hmm.
right? And you're not lying to yourself. That's your body's way of keeping you safe,
Hmm.
So yeah, rewiring that and having your body feel safe on a deep subconscious level is so important. And again, I'll say that I sympathize if you're listening to this and you're like, I want the weight loss tip. Tell me that. We'll get to that in a second here too, but like that will only take you so far.
Hmm.
And why you keep going back to the old patterns and you keep putting back on the weight isn't because your metabolism is super screwed up. It is if you keep dieting, yo-yoing, sure, but that's again a pattern issue. It's a mindset issue. It's a subconscious fear of something, right? And so it's like, do that work that doesn't seem as sexy. It doesn't have to say first, but at least at the same time. And I know that's something we prioritize a lot with clients, right? It's like, I don't want you to be back here in a few months. I don't want you to have to hire another coach a few years because you didn't fix the root of the problem. The root of your problem isn't the parasite, I guarantee you. It's probably a lot deeper, right?
100%. Why did that parasite take up home in your body?
100%.
Why did it feel comfortable to replicate and feed off of you?
Yep.
Right? Your
All
body was like running on a frequency that matched it.
Mhm. And that is a crazy thing because honestly, I'll sympathize with some listeners here for a hot second. You would have told me 5, 10 years ago that that was the case. I'm like, no, right? Like it's not that I wouldn't have believed it. It's just that like, okay, but we have to do some like heavier roles, right? We have to do that things. And now getting more into also bioenergetics. Is it parasitic people? Is it that your immune system's so
Mm.
depressed that it's allowing for all these invaders? So when we're looking at all of these problems, like even I know you do GI maps, like we can look at all of these problems that are happening with the gut, but at the reality of it is why is our body so susceptible to all this dysfunction,
Hmm.
right? Why is our immune, I mean, you probably look at it with secretory IgA on a GI map. It's like, why is our immune system like in the trash of the gut, right? Chronic stress, right? Trauma. There's much like a ton of data around this as well, right? So while the parasite cleanse can work, don't get me wrong, fan of that for the right person.
Well, yeah, you might have to
But
actually do some physical things for sure.
it'll come back.
Yeah.
And and it does for a lot of people. And that kills me, especially when you invest thousands of dollars into working with, a naturopath, a functional doctor, even coach it, whatever that looks like, investing in the right tests, the right supplements, doing the protocols, only for it to come back. That's what I see time and time again, is living under that chronic stress exposure or other exposures like mold is a big one if you're living in that, or, we can get more like physical. But yeah, so I'm gonna stress it again because it's just that important. And I think the harder thing to do.
Yeah, and in all honesty, it's just definitely not the sexy thing to do. Like
No.
you want to tell people like you're doing this cool parasite cleanse and you did a coffee enema and like the craziest things come out. Like I've had those conversations, right? Yeah. Oh man, yes, absolutely. And like there might be a place for the physical antimicrobial healing pieces and like I certainly do that stuff with
Sure.
my clients, but like because those are also stressors on the body,
Mhm.
right? If we're going to talk about stress, I think that we actually need to talk about stress so that people understand that it's not always external.
Not always emotional.
And oftentimes, when you release whether it's the parasitic infection
Mhm.
or it's you release the trauma, the
Mhm.
things that you like your external stressors, like your job or, your relationships, those types of things actually are much easier to handle and don't actually put much stress on you
Mhm.
because you have capacity. But the internal, whether that be trauma, emotional trauma, or a parasitic infection, you know what I mean? Or like whatever, enter, whatever we find on functional labs. Those are hidden stressors. Those are stressors on your body as well. And you can't just focus on one type of stress.
That's really important because I think
Hmm.
when people hear stress, the most common thing I hear about, and you're probably the same here, is well, besides I'm not stressed, is I can't control my stress. I'm always going to be stressed out. I can't control that. And that's a huge mindset shift because what I tell people all the time is it's not a matter of how much stress you're under, it's how much your body is willing to handle. And so you
Hmm.
have to become more stress resilient. It's not about not being stressed. That's not what this is
Right.
about in the world we live in right now. Great for you if that's what you're able to kind of achieve, but it's not that, right? And so how you build stress resilience is, you kind of are you have to armor proof your body. And that might be, again, the nervous system work is key here, but it's also, you know, if we have severe dysbiosis, mycotoxins, we're living in mold, we, have, tons of inflammation, tons of terrible blood sugar regulation, like all those things are going to create a stressor on the body as well, creating less capacity to hold the mental stress. So that's why even your husband puts the dishes in the dishwasher the wrong way and suddenly you start snapping at them and you can't stop and you're like, why am I crying? And like all of these things are like emotional overload, but it's also just like our body's at capacity. Like it can't
Right.
handle one more thing, right? And so yeah, all of these things are important to address.
But if you really think about that, like let's think about emotional trauma from when you were a kid. Everybody has it. I don't care what anybody says, everybody has it.
Oh,
You
100%.
could have had the most perfect childhood. It's not about what has happened to you, it's about what you've made something mean about you, and everybody's brain works that way. So everybody has emotional trauma. I'm going to blanket statement that. Whether
Yes.
it has continued to affect you in a uh, overcapacity kind of way is a different story. But let's just imagine your body, empty cavity. So, you're 5 years old, your ice cream drops on the floor. You've made it mean that you can't hold an ice cream. Like, I know this is like, we're really simplifying, but you've somehow made it mean that you are incapable of carrying this thing that mom told you do not drop.
Yeah.
Okay. And like, just imagine water pouring into your empty cavity of your body. So now you're maybe like water is up to your knees. Okay.
Mhm.
Then, you're 13 and you fail a test at school. Ugh, it reinforces I'm not good enough. I'm not capable.
Yep.
Now you pour a little bit more water in, you're up to your hips. Now you're 18, you break up with your boyfriend. Oh, okay. Now we're like waist level. Now you're in your 20s, you've got a career, or, you've gone to school, you maybe have a career, you are maybe drinking more than you should, you probably have had some sleepless nights in university, you move into your 30s, you now have a mortgage and a car payment and a husband and a kid, and all of a sudden, the water is now up to your eyes.
Mhm.
It's going to take only your husband putting the wrong bowl in the dishwasher for you to overflow.
Yep.
Right. And so that's what I mean by all of those stressors. It's like something as simple as an ice cream falling on the floor is like filling your body. That's your nervous system. The breakup with the boyfriend, the failed test, the mortgage, the crappy food, etc. It just keeps overflowing. And so imagine you then resolve, you go through the process, the unsexy process of healing your nervous system, and all of a sudden you realize that your mom didn't mean to make you feel not good enough when you dropped your ice cream on the floor, and all that water gets reduced and
Mhm.
reduced and reduced, and you realize it. And now when your boss, tells you you screwed up something, you're not overflowing anymore.
Mhm.
Right? So it can be if you try to make it tangible, you can make it tangible. You just have to drop into your body and feel it.
Yeah, I mean, that's so true. And I'm going to take this a little bit of a step further because that was a beautiful analogy with the mental load. And this also works on a metabolic side of things as well, because say you are up to your eyeballs, right? And then it takes one illness, right? We saw this a lot in the last few years, right?
Mm,
And suddenly you have severe metabolic dysfunction and nothing is working anymore. And suddenly your hair's falling out, your joints are hurting, it was inflamed, maybe your skin's breaking out and your weight is gaining. And it was like, I didn't do anything different. And then you try to control that even more and try to like backtrack and do the things that like you used to work, and then it backfires and your body gets more, it retains more water, retains more weight. And so like from that mental perspective too, it's also on a physiological level. Sometimes when you have so much inflammation and, just all the stuff wreaking havoc on your body, it doesn't take a lot for it to pour over, right? It
yes.
could be something as simple as a cold, right?
Yes.
Or a flu, something that just activated the immune system in the wrong way, right? Or a trauma too. Like, I mean, again, nothing super big, but I've seen this where it's like, your kid maybe breaks their arm, right? And suddenly that's rehashing a ton of trauma. And then that was the one thing that was like overloaded your body too much, right? And it couldn't handle anymore. So, I see that so much, and I'm sure you do too with more tricky cases. It's like this wasn't the cold or the flu or your kid or the diet that you did. It was all the things leading up to that, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Um,
100%.
which is hard. You know,
But if you think about it, so we think about as important as weight loss is for a lot of women. So in my world, women often hide that weight loss is like super important until they're really like deep diving with me and they really trust me. And then it's like the whole thing.
Mhm.
But let's think about weight loss versus cancer.
Mhm.
Okay, for a second. Weight loss is very insignificant of a
Mhm.
goal if you have cancer. I mean, maybe, but you know what I'm saying? Like the severity, like we're talking I'm uncomfortable in my body versus like terminal stuff going on. We can again wrap our heads around that if you get diagnosed with some type of cancer at 65 years old, we can say your cancer didn't start at 65. It didn't start at your diagnosis. It started at 30
Yep.
with your habits, with what you were doing, with your not sleeping, with your, whatever, what you were eating, your epigenetics, etc. But why can't we also wrap our head around weight loss, insomnia, perimenopausal symptoms?
Ooh.
You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like it starts 10, 15 years before.
Yep.
It's no wonder that when you're a teenager and you're in your 20s, I don't know about you, but like every weekend was like a field party from the age of 18 onward where we would just like drink ourselves into a stupor and not sleep all night.
Legitimately my college experience. And I was on
Yeah.
Accutane during it, so wondered why my liver was a little rough. But yeah, yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, our body is really resilient,
Yeah.
but you really are just like overloading it until your body can't hold it anymore.
Mhm.
And things like and that's why we see a lot of women in their 30s and 40s, 50s and 60s, because they're just overloaded now,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And it expresses in people differently. Like for you, it was autoimmunity,
Yep.
right? For me, I mean, it was like 50 different symptoms. It was like full metabolic chaos.
Yeah.
For some people, it ends up being diabetes, heart disease, cancer
Mhm.
when you let it go that long,
100%.
right? So we have to think about it more like in terms of, um, kind of bringing it back to like nervous system stuff, like what you imagine your life to be down the road in terms of your overall health. You have to start doing the unsexy stuff today.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? You have to start thinking about what you're doing today. And even though you say like you haven't changed anything, nothing has changed for you. Something on a cellular level has changed.
Mhm.
And it wasn't one thing that did it. It was everything.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. Taking that different kind of perspective and that look and just realizing it all plays a part. And it really does go so much further back. And I'll also chime in with this is that you probably do feel quotation fine, right?
Sure.
Until you're absolutely not. And that's a safety mechanism of your body. That's very smart, right? And one thing I wish, and I totally understand that people don't, is like investing in your health before things are so bad that it takes so many more weeks and months and years to reverse the damage. It's like listening to those red flags first and being like, this isn't normal, right? Let's
Mhm.
let's figure out why why this is happening instead of shoving it down because then you just live on adrenaline. And that adrenaline will fool you into thinking that you are fine and everything is great, right?
What a beautiful hormone. What a beautiful
Yeah.
for a little while. What a beautiful hormone.
Well, and that's the thing too. I mean, just kind of jumping on this train is like cortisol, right? People always demonize cortisol. Cortisol is a beautiful thing. We need cortisol. We need it. We just need to make sure that it doesn't stay high for too long. Like that's the thing. Like we need all of these things. We need insulin. We need cortisol. We need adrenaline. We need all of these things to function. It's just when they become too extreme and too prevalent, that's when dysfunction happens. And it's like, but yeah, it's just finding that balance in your body again. And, I was somebody that lived off that for a long time thinking I was fine.
Big
And
time. You know what? I love the nervous system conversation. I want to bring back to just for a second the first time. So I will be the first one to say that I am A type, highly driven.
yeah,
I will pull up my bootstraps and just do the things, to make like I don't know how else to describe me. I would have never said I was stressed,
yeah.
in my 20s
Uh-oh.
when my metabolic health went to shit. I started learning about nervous system and, I was deep diving into my health and a friend of mine brought me to a breathwork retreat. It was like a
Mm,
whole weekend.
wow.
I'd never done breath work before in my life.
You went
And
to the whole weekend?
I
Good
did
for
a
you.
whole weekend.
Sorry. All in.
A-type. I'm
All
all in, right? I'm A-type. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna fix it. It's gonna take 3 days. That's it. Um, so anyway, I go to this retreat and, you know, it was, I didn't even know that my body was so tense until it wasn't.
for sure.
And the only way that I can describe the feeling for those of you who have never done breath work, or for those of you who maybe say I'm fine all the time, there was like this is the only way I can describe it. Maybe it sounds totally frou-frou. There was like the most purest self-love.
Mm.
It was like warm, it was calm,
Mm.
it was like a completely at peace place where I didn't care where my phone was. Nobody was looking for me. Like it didn't matter what the weather was. Like there was just literally nothing other than the most purest form of self-love. And that's when I realized how stressed out I was in life because I didn't even know I had the capability of feeling that calm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful because that is something you can talk about, but you don't understand that feeling unless you've lived it. Yeah. And breath work is an incredibly powerful, modality. I actually brought in a year and a half ago, my functional practitioner is a somatic breathwork specialist, and brought in breathwork because I was like, this needs to be like, people need to do this more, right? But self-love is the highest form of, love, respect, whatever. I can't remember the whole prism that they talk about. But people lack that, but they don't even know what it feels like. And I remember somebody being like, "Yo, you need to love yourself a little bit more." I'm like, I do. And then you
Yeah.
realize all the words you're telling yourself day to day.
Yes.
And you realize that this isn't rooted in love. It's rooted in ego or in a, frustration. And, you can want a different thing for your body while still also being rooted in love and being okay with the process. But, feeling that freedom, for lack of better words, that peace. I would love for people to be able to experience that, right? Because people don't know what it feels like. And it's just
100%.
like I didn't know what it felt like to feel good. I never thought I felt as bad as I did until I healed my body, and I was like, "Oh, wait a minute. I, this is how my body should function. This is amazing."
Yeah. Yeah. On the
Yeah.
physical healing for me too, I would describe it like for a number of years, there was like literally a dark cloud following behind me at all times. And when I started to really deep dive into my physical health, that just like it was like the clouds broke up and the sun came through. You were just like, whoa, like what? I remember my husband, few weeks after my explant surgery, he said, I've known him for over a decade. He said, I've never seen you so vibrant.
Wow. Dude, we can have a whole conversation about BII, breast implant illness. This is an important topic, but that's so true. I think when you go on this healing journey too, we maybe start off with maybe our weight. Maybe, we've talked about that, right? Maybe gut health. And what we don't realize is our relationships deepen, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe who you attract is more aligned with who you want to be, right? It's like it does go so much deeper. Your kids see you as a better, more aligned, more calm sense. That's a huge thing too, especially if you're a mom. Your kids pick up on your nervous system,
Big
um,
time.
and they see you taking care of yourself and, they start implementing those habits too, right? So it really is so deep. But also, if you want to go a little more on the woo energetic side, you doing the energy work or the nervous system work is also healing generational trauma as well. And that's something that's so powerful because you also pass that on. And you have the power to stop these trauma loops, right? Whether that's in how you respect people, how you treat people, it could also be just the way you view food, right? And the way you don't want, to pass that on any longer, how you view your body. So it's like this stuff does go so much deeper than the 10 pounds you want to lose. And I'm not discrediting that as well, right? But it feels so much more meaningful, you know?
That's exactly as you said. So for 10 years I had my gym and it was all the physical and I loved it and it was very fulfilling
Yep.
until my world became so much deeper.
Mhm.
And then I was like, I need to marry these. I need to marry this like women who want to lose weight because we can all have these like physical wants. Like, are we still like that's very valid and reasonable. I still want to be a very lean, strong person. That's not changing. Um, but what has changed is that like now I do it out of self-love and not out of complete like want to, grind my body into the ground to
Not
do
from
it.
a place of hatred or from a place of loathing or disrespect. Like that is so true. It's coming from a place of love. And that's so like Laura just got chills. Like that's so powerful.
Yeah,
Um, and that carries on to again, well past just us. Especially if you're like wanting to have kids or wanting to get pregnant too, like your body, your womb space remembers that. You pass that on to your kids too. And they see the physical as well, when they're in the physical, world as well. And yeah, that's a very, very cool thing. Um, Neither is right or wrong, but again, when you start deepening your journey, you start being opening your eyes to all of the different things that can do to heal. Like neither is right or wrong. Everyone's on their own bit of journey.
100%. And you know what? Speaking of like thinking about kids and stuff, that feeling that I had, that like incredibly peaceful, beautiful feeling of self-love in like I see it, like I literally see what I was seeing during that session of breath work. When I think about that calm, when I cuddle with my son, I can bring myself back to it. It's like a muscle I have now flexed and
Mm.
strengthened. And yes, I have like listen, I am a business owner. I am a mom. I own a house in a rural area. We have like a million things going on all day, every day. Like there are real stressors in my life, external and internal. I'm not saying that these two paths can't run parallel. They're not mutually exclusive. But like knowing that I have the ability to kind of draw on that experience at
Mm.
any point because my body knows it now.
Mm.
It does make me conscious when I like cuddle my son to sleep or you know what I mean? Like I don't want him to feel me thinking about my to-do list.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At 7:30 at night when he's trying to fall asleep. Like he does not need to be picking up on me being like, okay, when I go downstairs, I need to make sure that I do the laundry. I need to make sure that I do the dishes. And then I got to make sure I get a good night's sleep. Like I don't want him feeling that. And so I have the ability, or anybody has the ability to tap into that experience once you've understood it.
Mm. There is a scientific name for this, and I don't know it, but it's where you can like, pull in those moments in certain parts of your, I think, prefrontal cortex and, tap into that energy, and that feeling, and literally release cortisol in that moment, and pull yourself out of, especially if people deal with like anxiety, or, more kind of panic attacks and things like that. It's like pulling in those memories, or even creating them, you know,
Yes.
and pulling in from those, even if they aren't real. Your brain doesn't know, or your body doesn't know, right? It's you can trick your brain. Um,
Yes.
so it's a beautiful thing. Um, but yeah, I love this, and I love kind of weaving in this conversation about nervous system. When we were chatting before we recorded, it's like where does this topic go? We can go so many different places with metabolism, with women's health. We could talk about the nutrition, we could talk about the workouts, we could talk about the strategies. And I have many of those episodes, and you and I could record for another 2 hours on it. But this is lesser talked about. And I
Yes.
think that is really important. So I really appreciate you bringing that kind of insight in, and sharing it with our audience. And, if people wanted to dive in a little bit more on what you do and kind of connect with you, where can they even find you?
Yeah, so my website is at www.michellescarlet.com. I am most active on Instagram, Michelle Scarlet underscore. My podcast is called the True Health Podcast. Shannon, you've been on it. And I post my video podcasts on my YouTube. Same thing. All my handles are at Michele Scarlet _. So head on over to the array of social media accounts.
Yes.
I'm there.
Perfect. And I will make sure to put her Instagram and website down in the show notes so you guys can easily find her and support her and go listen to the podcast as well. And I just appreciate you being here. Listeners, I appreciate you being here as well. And if you found this helpful or you want to share it with somebody that you think it would hit home with, please do. But otherwise, we'll catch you guys on the next show. Thank you, Michele.
Thank you.